I hit record, but I don't know if it did do it.
It says recording.
Okay, we're recording. Go ahead, Lee.
Woohoo! I am so thrilled to have the pleasure of introducing Jenny as our hostess with the mostest, who will be providing an amazing mentoring class for you on amplifying your voice to be seen and heard on a bigger stage. And I've had the pleasure of working with Jenny over the years. She's spoken at 3 of my conferences, I believe, and she is a huge hit with my audience and my members, of course, as well. I've had many of my members go on to do work with her and have just blossomed in their ability to feel more confident and comfortable being on the stage. Jenny transforms entrepreneurs from zero to hero. I love that. In front of the camera, she also talks to random strangers in the supermarket line. Her insatiable curiosity drove her to dig up stories for 10 years as a journalist and host of CBC, the first TV show to win a Gracie Allen Award from New York after hosting Living Vancouver. Viewership shot up from almost 50%. Behind the camera, Jenny spent 5 years in commercial film production for major brands. Now Jenny coaches on-camera performance and directs YouTube videos, vlogs, and writes scripts and authentic punch. No corporate jargon allowed. Good. And someone who's courageous enough to allow their authentic personality to shine in their marketing is Jenny. Great client. Clients sometimes hire Jenny just to hang out because of her positivity, her fun and infectious energy. Don't wait in the super line market to have a chat with her. So I am really thrilled to have you, and I'm going to put it over to you to really get our audience and our members understanding and engaging in a more less scary way on stage and on video, and to not hide behind PowerPoint, which I know you won't do.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. Thank you so much, Lee, for that very enthusiastic introduction. I certainly know what it's like to be really afraid to be seen and to be heard on a bigger stage. So I'm just going to dive into a quick story of what happened to me when I was in high school. So I went down to Florida for this business competition. And when we got back, all of the students who competed were invited to this reception at Toronto City Hall. And it was pretty fancy. We're inside the big city council chambers. They had this big spread of all this food. So I was there filling up my plate when all of a sudden I heard them call my name to the podium. So I began walking up there and I thought, am I supposed to give a speech? My armpits started sweating. My mouth went really dry. And as I walked towards the front of the room, it was like every step had slowed down. It was as if my life was moving in slow motion. And I can remember this crystal clear, like it happened yesterday. I got up, stood behind the podium, looked out at all of these very important people, the mayor, city councilors, and I froze. Or I think that's what happened, because honestly, I have repressed that memory. I was so horrified as a 16-year-old teenage girl that I actually don't even remember what happened after that. But as you can imagine, I developed a huge fear of public speaking. Now, the ironic thing is that I did go on to work as a broadcaster, but my fear of public speaking, it really impacted me in every aspect of my life. In my personal life, I had to give speeches at friends' weddings. I would be terrified for weeks beforehand. When I worked at the CBC, eventually I got quite good in radio and television. But the thing is, in radio and television, you always have a second chance. If you fumble your words, usually things are recorded. You have a second or third or fourth chance. You just record it again. Not true for public speaking. And in my role, I was asked to do things like MC a fundraiser or moderate a public discussion. And I would be in the bathroom full on having an anxiety attack beforehand. not only because of what happened in high school, because of that experience, but because deep inside, I did not feel like I was good enough. I am a Korean Canadian. I was born in Toronto, but I grew up watching a lot of people on TV, no one who looked like me. Most people I saw in the movies and TV shows were Caucasian and white. And because I didn't see a reflection of my own self or my own story back at me, I felt like my voice didn't matter. And I tried really hard not to act like myself. I really tried to act perfect and white like everyone else I saw in media. So deep down inside, I really didn't think I was good enough. Now, luckily, because of my job, I actually was forced to do a lot of public speaking. So eventually it got to the point where I wasn't having a full-on anxiety attack. However, it was still something that really freaked me out. So when I started my business more than 5 years ago, I was determined to get over my fear of public speaking. So I booked myself 2 speaking gigs every month. Started with small, business meetings, chambers of commerce, and it's grown to me speaking on international stages. I've been flown coast to coast from Newfoundland to Victoria to speak at conferences in front of hundreds of people. I've given a Petakucha talk, a TEDx talk, and it's amazing that I now get to help people do the same thing. I helped the CEO of a multinational write his TEDx talk and deliver it. And the fact that I get to do this work now is just so incredible to me, because it's so satisfying to see how amazing it is when people transform and when they actually find their voice. And I know what that's like because it's happened for me as well. So maybe we should just quickly touch upon, why is it so scary to public speak? Why is it so terrifying? Well, the good news is it's all in your head. It's all in your own head. So if we go back to evolution, the reason human beings have risen to the top of the food chain, it's not because we're the fastest or strongest beings out there. It's because we know how to work together socially as a group. And when we are in a group together, then we can protect ourselves from predators like the lions and the tigers out there. However, if at any point you get ostracized from the group and you're by yourself, you are more likely to get eaten by the predators. So this is literally an evolutionary state. In today's society, when a person gets up and speaks in front of a crowd or is singled out, not only is there fear of rejection and judgment, but there's a very primal fear that, oh, I could be ostracized from the group and by myself I will die. This is why you've heard people say there's a statistic, more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of dying. Like, that is real, and it comes back to this primal level. So once you have that awareness, it's like, okay, that's what's going on here. I get that. And of course, it can be a very vulnerable experience, being the one up there in front of everyone, staring at you, watching you, judging you. And what I can tell you after working with more than 1,000 women entrepreneurs on how to, be seen and amplify their voices, is whatever you are worried about, whatever insecurity you have about yourself, whether it is the sound of your voice, whether it is, for me, I always talk about my crooked teeth, whatever it is that you're worried about, I guarantee you, most people do not notice it. I call it balloon focus. Whatever you're worried about for yourself, it's like balloon focus. For me, when I see a photo of myself, all I see are my crooked teeth. It's the first thing I see, my balloon focus on it. However, if I told you that, you're probably like, what, Jenny? I didn't even know you had crooked teeth. And it's like, exactly. For me, it's huge, but for you, you don't even notice. So I'm just gonna even show you. Like, anyway, I've got crooked teeth, but you probably didn't notice. Now I'm hearing this beep beep. Are you hearing that as well?
Yeah, I am. I think you may have the ability to mute people, because I don't seem to be able to.
Oh, well, maybe we can ask everyone to mute themselves. Sorry, I just want to make sure that we handle that beep beep.
Yeah.
Okay. So if everyone could mute themselves, that would be really helpful. Okay. We're almost going to get there, or else we'll move on with it. Because I don't seem to have, unless I stop share. Sorry, I'm just going to try this just to make sure. Manage participants. I'm going to mute all. Okay, you've all been muted. Does that work? Okay, sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. All right. And I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay. So again, we're balloon focusing on our own insecurities, and to us, they're huge, but to everyone else, they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I like to think of my insecurities like this. How many of you are familiar with the FedEx logo? Now, this is a logo that wins awards year after year, even after 30 years. And designers love this logo. Now, I'm sure you've seen this hundreds of times on trucks, on envelopes, on packages. And you may be wondering, what's so special about this logo? If you look carefully, there's something called the FedEx arrow. The FedEx arrow. So take a look closely and see if you can see where the FedEx arrow is. If you're not sure, here's a hint. Look between the E and the X, and nestled within the gray is a white arrow. Do you see it? Oh my gosh, I've been looking at this logo for how many years? I've never known there's a FedEx arrow, but now that you know that it's there, you can't stop seeing it. So think of your insecurities like that. People do not notice them. Only you can really see them. And so whenever you see a FedEx truck go by, I want you to just giggle to yourself and think, ha, it's like my insecurities. I notice them, but no one else notices them like you do. So one great thing is just deflate your insecurities. Whatever you're worried about, it's not as bad as you think. I guarantee it. When I hear about what people are worried about, it's just madness. You know, really smart people are worried about sounding stupid. Really thin people are worried about looking heavy. I mean, it's just madness when you hear the insecurities that people hold in our own head. So it's all in your head, which is great news. This was a term I heard during the Olympics, and I just thought, oh, this is so perfect. Think about these athletes. They are preparing for 4 years for this one little race or one competition, and that competition might only take 2 minutes. And they've practiced 4 years training every day for this one moment. So preparation breeds confidence. So if you're going to give a speech, or if you're going to be on a video, how much preparation are you doing? When I gave my TEDx talk, I would say it took me almost a month to prepare for an 11-minute talk. And honestly, even I was surprised at how much time it took. But if you really want to be your best, it does take extra time. And I'm not saying that you have to do this every single time. Usually what I recommend is you have one keynote, as in this is your one signature talk. And then once you've written it, then you keep working on it again and again. You just repeat it. You don't have to rewrite it over and over. So the thing is, though, you do want to invest some time in making sure that you're saying the right stuff, your speech is awesome, and then that your delivery is awesome. And as you get more and more comfortable doing it again and again, you will be able to have more fun with it and really sink into your material. Stand-up comedians do the same thing. They don't make up new jokes every time. They do the same routine, and they just do it again and again and again. So just know that it's all about preparation. And preparation is what breeds confidence. You can't just go out there and wing it and expect to rock it. You are out there giving a performance. I mean, even think about actors or for live theater. How many months are they practicing before they actually get on stage? They're practicing for months. So just to get a sense of, oh, okay, it takes more preparation than I think. And really what it comes down to, I find, it's breaking into 2 parts. One is your speech, and then one is your presentation skills. So let's just go quickly into speech. And again, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to, I kind of can see, you know what it is though? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to just get this out of this for 1 second because I just can't see all of my chat box. There we go. Okay, so how do you keep it fresh when you present the same material, and how do you keep existing audience interested once they've heard you? So after you do a lot of speaking, I mean, I've been speaking for almost 5 years now, it is a bit challenging to keep it fresh because it's like, oh, I've been saying it again and again. However, the key to remember is this is a new audience every time. So you have to really believe that they are hearing this for the first time, even though I may have said it 100 times. This is fresh for them. So it is about the training of really being able to tap into that emotional energy each time. And as well, I usually try to challenge myself every time I speak. So now I'm pretty comfortable. Actually, I'm quite comfortable public speaking. It's probably one of my favorite places to be is on stage. It's when I feel like I'm really present, I'm connected to hundreds of people. It's a really amazing feeling. However, I might challenge myself. So for example, one might be, I want to make eye contact with every single person in this audience, or just a little personal challenge for me to try to up my game. So that's what I do. I do little challenges for myself just to keep things fresh. If you're engaging the same audience, then it is about, you do want to be tweaking your material slightly. Okay, so it's about giving them, maybe going deeper into some of your material, sharing more stories from your clients or customers and their successes. You do want to keep it fresh, or bringing in more exercises. You know, whenever we do talks, I usually try to do one element where there's an exercise so that people can actually experience what it's like. And we all learn differently. Some people are visual learners. Some people like to hear things. Some people like to experience things in their bodies, kinesthetically. So I would encourage you to just really start to think of, okay, how can I touch all of the different senses and the different learning styles of people to make my presentation more engaging as well. So in terms of just a few points of writing your speech, I would really think about, again, what we learned in high school about writing an essay. Have your one main theme and then your three supporting facts, or three supporting ideas to support that main thing. So again, keep it simple, but you do want to break things down. It's a very official term, I like to call it. It's called chunking. So you want to chunk your material. Always thinking about chunking. And again, keeping it simple, just main idea, 3 chunks. That's awesome. Keep it simple. The next thing I would say is really work on your opening hook. How are you starting this? This is the first impression. How are you drawing people in? Now, I sometimes have done weird things, like I did like some martial art thing. In this case, I just dove in with a story that's really strong. Always talking about a personal story is really, really important. So really thinking about, or doing something a little bit unexpected. I just worked with a client yesterday on Skype, and we came out with something like, I won't use her name, so I'll say, hi, my name is Karen, and I know what it's like to feel starved for time, right? So again, something that's like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, but just something that's going to grab people's attention. Okay, so let's open it up. Does anyone have any questions specifically around content, like when you're writing your speech? And I would like to say that most people spend tons of time on this, because this is like, these are my words. It feels like a security blanket. And you want to actually probably spend more time on your actual delivery and presentation skills. If we don't have any questions, that's fine too, because then we can move on to, I'm going to give everyone one more chance. If you have any questions about organizing your actual speech.
I have a question.
Okay, great. Let's hear it, Heather.
Do people tend, if you're moving towards being a speaker, to have like one keynote that they spend most of their time developing and then just pitching? When you were saying you went out and you had a goal of 2 a month, did you have already prepared what you were going to say and you were presenting that topic to these people?
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm known for. I mean, for me, it was video performance. That sort of evolved to public speaking as well. I mean, some similarities in those topics, but I just did the same thing over and over again. I mean, you tweak it slightly for the audience. Sometimes I did women entrepreneurs. Sometimes I'm dealing with CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies. Sometimes I'm dealing with solo entrepreneurs. So again, there are places that I would tweak the content, but absolutely get known for one thing first. And then once you've done the speaking circuit, or you've spoken everywhere in your city, or then you can think about, okay, what's another evolution, or what's another topic? That way you're really known for one thing. I think as a speaker, that's important. Sometimes you look on people's speakers pages and they've got a list of 15 things they can talk about. It kind of dilutes your brand. Okay. So I would recommend to have their one signature talk, keep working on it, make it awesome, and then you can then work on your next one. Thanks. Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. Okay, now that you know what you're going to say, the next question is, how are you going to say it? Now, this is the fun part, I think, because this is about the presentation. You may have heard the expression that we communicate more than 90%, like how we communicate is nonverbal. However, most people spend 90% of their time on the words and less than 10% on how they're showing up. So I would encourage you to swap that. Could you spend only 10% of your time on your words and your script, and then 90% of your time on your delivery and your presentation skills? A lot of times when we get up there in front of that microphone, things go a bit haywire. It's like, oh my gosh, and I know what that's like. It's like you've got 100 things in your head. Oh, I got to remember to do this. Oh my gosh, where's my water? My tech, something's going wrong with tech. Oh my gosh, this person looks so bored. I mean, there's so many things happening. So the very first thing I would recommend once you get there up on stage is to take a nice deep breath and wiggle your toes. Now, the reason we do this is to connect to our body. We don't want to connect to our head where it's like the crazy talk happens. You want to connect to your body where the wisdom is. Because by this point, you would have practiced at least 10 times, right? Out loud, beginning to end. You would know your material. And you're like that athlete. You want to just get back into your body. And that is where your wisdom comes from. And when you're connected to your body, that's when you can react to things better on the fly. Because sometimes something unexpected will happen. I was speaking at Bank of Montreal once, and a mouse ran across my foot. No joke. Like inside their new building, it was renovated, and like a mouse, and I just freaked out. But again, it was kind of funny because then I was able to work with that, and it was kind of funny. But you just never know what's going to happen. So the key is to always be connected to your body. So we have a question about tech issues, about having myself really lined up on my screen. Any tips for that? Okay, yeah. So if we're talking about video, framing is everything. On a video camera, yeah, Lee, get that framing going. So on a video camera, we are working with a very small box. So it's not a lot of room. I mean, I could be wearing my underwear right now, you wouldn't know, and that's fine, right? But I'm gonna make sure from the waist up, I look amazing, because that's the part that people are gonna see. What usually happens is people do this. I'm just gonna raise it. So it's like this, like all this headroom up here. This happens a lot. Now the impact, if I did my video like this, is I look like I'm short. And in our society, no one wants to look short. So I've got this little thing here, and I'm just like adjusting the angle of my laptop. So I'm like, great. Top of my head is almost hitting the top of the frame. So that way I look taller. That way people can see more of my body. That way I can use my hands, and this adds a whole level of energy. If I talk this whole time like this, it's just a boring talking head. Now, if I bring my hands into it and I can strategically use my hands to like really push points or say, on the one hand, this is the case, on the other hand, it just adds this whole level of energy and emphasis. So how you frame yourself is so important. The other thing I'll say is you have to know what the lens of your video camera, your webcam, or your cell phone camera is, because the lens represents the eyes of your ideal customer or client. So if I'm too low, it's as if the customer is looking down on me. If I'm too high and I'm like looking down on you, then it feels like I'm lording over you. So literally it's like this power imbalance. So you want to make sure that the lens of your camera is around eye level, maybe a little bit higher. Angle down is usually a bit more slimming. And we all want to like a little bit slim on camera. Okay, so let's move on to, I think Heather, you had a question. Did you want to ask that as well?
Just about like confidence and like little tips you have for mindset. I mean, the wiggling the toes was a good one. Mm-hmm. Any other tips you have for like staying embodied when you like, I know what happens to me is like, I feel like my body just kind of like goes numb right before I'm about to speak. I get that like weird, like where did my body just go?
Yeah. So it is always about connecting to your body. So it's about having some body awareness. So what I would do even before I go on stage is I would go to the handicap stall in the bathroom and I would do the power pose like this. So arms up. And as I'm doing this and like legs wide, So power pose, like this again, there's a TED talk about this by Amy Cuddy, and it's about how your body language affects your brain. And so this literally, it reduces the stress hormones, and it increases testosterone, which again is about confidence. And if you do this, and I usually close my eyes and I imagine there's this white light coming into the crown of my head, and I just infuse myself with as much beautiful positive energy as possible. And then I install my inner cheerleader. I'm like, okay, Jenny, you got this, you can do this. And I just really speak to myself with as much positivity as possible. I have a mantra where I say, everything will work out fine because it always does. So for me, logically, I can't argue with that. Even if things go sideways, I learn something, so I know it'll work out fine in the end. So that's what I say to comfort myself. I also, say, you know what, people just want you to be yourself. They don't want anything else from you. They just want you to be yourself. That's what I say. So I would just think about a couple of short mantras or little sayings you can say that will help encourage you, because you got to set yourself up for success. And usually what I used to do in the past was like, don't screw this up, Jenny. Oh, you better not screw this up. Like, this was a very different voice when I was younger, very critical voice. It was actually, my father's voice is whose voice that was. So it's about how do I get rid of that voice and install my new voice, which is my inner cheerleader. And the other thing I would say about confidence, yeah, you know what? You have to really have a different relationship with this idea of judgment. You're going on stage or you're going on video, and you know what? People are going to judge you. That's just the reality of life. As you play a bigger game and get in front of a bigger audience, you will have critics. And I remember the very first radio show I hosted on the CBC, it was an arts and culture show. And honestly, I would get hundreds of emails of like, Jenny, you're so great. And like, cause I kind of revamped this show and they're just like loving it. And I would just get all these emails. And then I remember the first one that was critical. And honestly, it was something so minor, but like that weekend I was home, I stayed in bed. I was so depressed. Like it just slayed me that this person didn't like me. And it's so interesting thinking back to it now, because I started recognizing, oh, why am I putting no weight into the hundreds of positive emails and all the weight into this one critical email? And then what I've realized as I've grown in my business, the people who are most critical of me whenever I speak, and it happens occasionally, I realize they're the people that are usually the armchair critics. They're the ones that are playing small. They're the ones that don't know what it's like to get out there and really put yourself out there. And those are people I actually don't really care about. If it's someone who's like a colleague or someone who's playing on the same level that's giving me some feedback, okay, I might take that with it, differently. But usually what I have found in my experience, the people who are the most critical are the ones who are playing small. Like they're the ones that just sit back and they're like, rah, 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 rah. And I'm sure you know people like that. So this is my new approach. I accept that I will be judged. That's just part of life, and that's part of playing a bigger game. That's the reality. However, if I get to the point where people start criticizing me, I actually think that's an awesome thing, because that means my message is growing to this bigger level, so that all of a sudden I'm hitting so many more people that it's not just the people that are on my tribe who get me. I'm actually hitting more people who might not get me. So I actually see it as a positive thing now. If someone, and like I do workshops here in Vancouver, and I've had someone kind of like poo-poo sort of the inspirational message or something. Like they did that on social media. And I was like, you know what? That's great. That means I am reaching more people. So that's part of it. It comes with the package. And at the same time, you have to kind of have a different relationship with it and recognize I'm not going to give it the same weight as I might have in the past. Does that help, Heather?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. One more thing I might say with you is maybe try one exercise. And I've done this myself. I still do it sometimes. Every day, write 3 things that you value about yourself, or 3 ways you've brought value into the world or to someone. So every day is like, I value myself for taking risks. I value myself for whatever that, and just do that, just 3 things every day. Try that for 21 days. And again, it's about, okay, what value I bring means a lot more than the fear of being judged. Okay, good question. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Oh, I know Heather White as well. Oh, someone's talking about tapping on the chakras. Ooh, I haven't done too much tapping on the chakras, but that sounds like a good idea. And dancing. Oh yeah, it's always good right before. If I'm in the bathroom, if I'm feeling really like I've got that nervous energy, I just shake it off, right? And if you can, go somewhere and dance, for sure. It's all about putting yourself in a real positive energy. Okay, there is this quote that I'd love to share. It's by W.E. Du Bois, who's the first African-American to get a doctorate from Harvard. And he says, "In this world, there is no force equal to the strength of a woman determined to rise." And I so believe that. I used to think my story about not seeing a reflection of myself in media was a Korean thing, but I've realized most women do not see a reflection of ourselves in media. We see very young women, we see very thin women, we see beautiful, drop-dead gorgeous women, and most women do not see a reflection of themselves. And this is why, as women, I feel, so many of us feel like we don't have a voice. And we've been socialized as women to be feminine. And to be feminine means to be quiet and nice. And so just to understand that it's not just you, it's society, it's how you've been raised. And it is going to be a bit of an uphill battle and a bit of a challenge. But if you're really determined and if you really believe in what you have to say, I believe there is no force, greater than the strength of a woman that's determined to rise. Okay, last little quick quote I wanted to say is that the biggest room in the world is a room for improvement. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance, invest in yourself. Learning how to be great in front of an audience is a skill you can learn. That's the beauty of it. It's a skill, just like learning how to play an instrument. I don't expect to pick up a violin and play concerto. I understand I have to get the lessons and I have to practice and practice and practice again. So understand that being great in front of an audience, it is a skill you can learn. So if you're really scared of it right now, join Toastmasters. That's a great opportunity to get in front of in front of a group of people. The thing with public speaking is you can't just practice on your own in your closet. It just doesn't work that way because it's not the same environment. So I love the idea of Toastmasters because it gets you in that situation. For me, I tried it myself, and I do find it's a bit formal in terms of their structure. So I didn't find it as a right fit for me. But again, I know it does amazing things for people. Or you hire an individual coach, someone like me, or someone who's giving a workshop, and you get it handled because there's so many benefits to public speaking. You can get in front of hundreds or thousands of people at the same time. The event organizers, they're doing all the marketing and promotion for you. When people see you speaking on a stage or they see your name in that bill, your credibility goes way up. People see you as an expert. And when they watch you speak, they get a taste of what you offer. And that way it minimizes risk for them and they're more likely to buy. So I have to say for myself, that's how I've built my business, is public speaking. And once you get comfortable with it, it is so much fun. Like, it is just an exhilarating experience to share. I've found to share my own story and to see the impact that it can have on people. So Elizabeth is saying that you need to speak up and not stay quiet and hidden away. Yeah, absolutely. I believe there's an inherent need and desire in us to share and to share our stories. And so I grew up as I was quite shy when I was young. So I know what it's also like to be very quiet and to have something to say, but to kind of go, oh no, I'm going to hide that. Or I'm like, I kind of want to hold my hand, like put up my hand, but I'm afraid I'm going to sound stupid. So I don't. I've lived a lot of my life in that world. And it is so much more liberating and so much more freeing to be here where I'm not as afraid of looking stupid. I will raise my hand and ask a question at a conference, and I won't be quiet because I have something to say. And I know what I say is important as well. And that's really, really important. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you one of my clients. She works at Kumon, Canada, and she recently got interviewed on Global TV, and she just nailed it. And this is what she had to say. She was saying, in front of an audience, I used to feel like I was a deer in the headlights, not able to take control. After working with Jenny, I now feel like I'm the expert in my industry and people really value what I have to say. She took me from a lump of clay to giving me a second wind at work, and it's like a dream come true for me. So again, it's really exhilarating when you get to that place where you find your voice and you can speak with confidence when you are on stage. So I would love to open it up again to more questions, and then I wanted to share some exciting news with you after that. But we do have a few more questions. So in terms of what kind of Toastmasters chapters, I know in Vancouver we have so many, and some of them are based on location and other ones are based on topics. Like the one I tried out was on environmentalism. So there's a huge selection. So I'm sure if you just figure out, where you live or what topic you're interested in, you can find one that suits you. How do you overcome people not hearing what you have to say? Okay, so is that happening? What kind of situation is that happening in? I just want to have a little more detail, Diane. Is that like in a one-on-one situation, or is that more if you're speaking in a group?
She's on video, so she could unmute her video.
Diane?
Yeah.
There you go. So it happens in either one-to-one or me to a small group, and I guess most of the time I wasn't confident enough. I don't know, but anytime I had a point on proving that something was working wrongly, and this is what we need to correct because it's not going to work or anything. Anytime I had to raise a point and say, "Hey, be careful, pay attention to this," they would actually not care about what I was saying, and then weeks later just come back to me and say, "Why didn't you tell us?" Well, I did.
Oh, okay. So then does that have to do more about your presence? Like, are you actually saying, are you actually taking control of the room? So if it's a smaller meeting and everyone's talking and you say, "Oh, I have a concern," I would actually, if I'm like, I have a concern, and if people are still talking, I would say, "Can you stop talking? I actually have something really important to say." And then wait till everyone gets quiet.
Okay.
And then speak. So don't speak when other people are speaking, or don't speak when people are not looking at you. I mean, you could even say, what, can everyone just please be quiet for a moment? I have something really important to say.
Okay.
And then wait for it to get silent. And then even if people are like on their phones, you can be like, just be authentic. Be like, I feel like you're not paying attention. Would you mind just making eye contact with me for a moment while I say this? Like, just being really direct if you feel like you're not being heard. The other thing I noticed, Diane, as well, so is English an additional language for you?
Yes.
Yes. Right. So again, I know a lot of people who have, English is not their native language, that sometimes they have insecurities about that. So what I would recommend with you as well is to slow down the pace at how you speak and just over enunciate.
Okay.
Because
it happened when I was in France, most of it, but for sure, I know I have to slow down. I just need to do it now.
Yeah. And again, when you slow things down, people actually pay more attention. It's ironic because you want to feel like, I want to get it all out, so I want to say a whole bunch of stuff. But the more you say, it just dilutes everything. Instead of you just say, no. It's very clear, right? Versus, well, I'm not sure because the reason I don't think so is blah, blah, blah. And it's like you're losing people. So try to say more in fewer words.
Sound bites.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is true for a lot of women. Women kind of tend to overtalk, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll try that. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane.
I have a quick question, and it kind of ties into something that Elizabeth is asking as well about ideas for pitching. Oh, sorry. Actually, her idea is a bit different. So Elizabeth is asking about pitching ideas for talk, I guess maybe to get business, like how she pitches herself to get more business. But my question is, one of the things we're really careful about when we have conferences and events is we always say no selling from the stage. So if your speaking is to lead you sales, how can you do that without totally turning people off?
Yeah, and these days, that's becoming the trend. I mean, when I first started off, everyone was like, yeah, make an offer. That's no problem. And usually, because sometimes I get paid to speak and sometimes I don't. So when I don't get paid to speak, usually the agreement is, oh, I can make an offer at the end and then I can generate sales. These days, that's really not trendy anymore, and most people don't want an offer at the end. So the key is, now you have to think of this now as relationship building. So it's not like I'm going to get a client at the end of this talk. I might get a client in 2 years. So you just have to think of it as a longer sales cycle. So the key at the conference is to get emails. And you have to do that by giving something away for free, right? Or some sort of call to action where you can collect emails. Now, these days, there's some cool things you can do. You get people to text stuff, right? And then people text information, and then they'll get some sort of freebie giveaway, something that's really juicy that they want. And then you have their cell phone numbers, or you might have to, you have to say, give your email address in order to get this. It is all about finding a way to continue the relationship now. And then the other thing you want to do is seed. So you want to be seeding, as in dropping some client success stories. I just did it. I talked about Leslie Keelty, who just did this amazing interview, and I read her testimonial, right? So you want to weave in some success stories of the people you work with, so that people are reminded, oh, right, she does do good work, or are reminded of the services that you do.
I have one more question, because it's something that ties into actually why we're even having you as our mentor of the month, and that was how to get more paid speaking gigs. So what do you have to give in terms of advice for getting paid speaking gigs?
If you're starting off, don't even try. If you're
Okay.
starting off, that's not the time to be like, pay me, $3,000 to do this. You have to be a little bit more established, I would say, or have some sort of track record where someone's seen you. Like, a lot of times for me, it's word of mouth. Someone saw me speak at a conference, and then they recommended me. So if you want to get paid, then again, starting off small to get your confidence level and your skill level up. And then I would record a video of yourself speaking, like have a speaker reel, so that conference organizers can have an example of you in front of an audience. Because no one's going to hire you as a speaker unless, one, you have some really niche expertise that they really need. But every organizer wants dynamic speakers. So they want to see an example of you speaking. So you definitely need to have a speaker reel, like a video. So if you're going to be speaking somewhere and it's going to be a great audience, I would bring in a videographer and record that, and then have a speaker reel. The second thing is you have to be proactive about it. I mean, there are things like speaking bureaus that can work, but they will have to decide if they want to bring you on the roster or not. But I would think about, where are the conferences that I want to speak at? And then you want to be in touch with those event organizers, like, I don't know, a year before their next one even, right? Because then oftentimes they'll put out a speaker role, like submissions. So they're looking for speakers. But it's not like you're like, oh, the conference is next month, I'm going to see if I can speak there. Usually by that point, they have all of their speakers lined up. So it is about being proactive. So I would think about the conferences you'd like to speak at, find out who's organizing it, and then get a sense of when their speaker submissions are happening.
Good. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And then, so now I would say about 50-50 for me is I get paid to speak, and then I don't get paid to speak. But by now, because I've been doing it for 5 years, enough people have seen me, or people say, oh yeah, I saw her speak, she's great, will recommend me, that kind of thing. So there's a bit more credibility because I've been doing it for a little bit.
And negotiate.
Oh yeah, negotiate. Whenever for me, whenever they say yes on the first number, I'm like, oh, I should have aimed for higher. So I want a little bit of back and forth. And so I, just like kind of think this is what I would have done, and then maybe add another $1,000 to it and see what happens. Yeah. I mean, the worst thing they can say is no, or else you can always come back to them, right? But I would always say, so speakers in Canada, like who are actual professional speakers, I would say baseline is usually $5,000. If you're starting out, it might be more like $2,500. So that's the sort of range you might be looking at. But these days, really, it's not about speaking to get paid for speaking. It's actually about the speaking is a marketing tool to lead to more. Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to, I want to be conscious of time here. Any other questions? Okay, so my call to action to you is to grab my new book that I co-authored with 10 other women entrepreneurs. It's 99 cents today and maybe tomorrow, but then it's going back up to its regular price. We just launched it yesterday. It's been mayhem. Like, we're like #1 bestseller in, like, I don't know, 5 categories. We're beating Tony Robbins' book, The Giant Within, yesterday on Amazon. So it's been really exciting. And it's 11 women who all have a different expertise, who are going to share their wisdom with you and some great practical tips. And I've got a chapter in there called Shine Online with Video. So again, it's only 99 cents right now. And if you just go into amazon.ca and type in simple success strategies, that'll pop up. And it would be great if you just went ahead and bought that. And all proceeds go towards a nonprofit that supports women and children. So again, that would be wonderful. And of course, if any of you are interested in some one-on-one coaching with me, the beautiful part is I love working with people virtually. I can do so much over a platform like Zoom or Skype, and I can really pinpoint where you might be having problems with your body language, because often we're not even sure what's going on, especially when we're on stage. And I'll just really accelerate that process for you and make sure that you're really confident. And if you're working on that one keynote, we can hammer away at the content and your presentation skills to make sure that you're really, really shining when you're up there on stage. Do I have the link? Yes, I do, but I'm going to have to stop my share, I think. Can I stop my share? Oh, look at that. Does that look different to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Brady Bunch.
Okay, we're the Brady Bunch. Okay, here is the link that I'm going to just put it in the, there's the actual link itself. And that'll take you to the page if you are interested in getting the book. 99 cents. It's pretty much free. I know.
One question someone asked was, are you doing any workshops in Toronto? I know you mentioned that you can easily do one-on-one coaching via Zoom and whatnot, but are you doing any workshops?
At this point, I don't have any workshops planned for Toronto. I do, again, I grew up in Toronto, I have family in Toronto, so I do like coming back to Toronto, but at this point I don't have anything. Maybe in the future, Lee and I can talk about doing something joint, and I know we've had some conversations in the past about that, but at this point, unfortunately, I don't. I do have a virtual program, though, that I may be launching soon, but what I can do is I'll just write also my email, connect@jennybeck.com. And if you just want to shoot us a quick email, and we can keep you on top of the next virtual program that I'll be putting out there as well.
Perfect. Great. Well, this was so informative. I was jotting notes down for a future blog post. And as everyone knows, we record these for members to access after the fact. So you can watch the recording, make notes. Now I know about the FedEx logo. So cool.
I know. And your insecurities, no one else notices them, right?
That's right. That's the most important thing. And I live on a daily vulnerable existence. I feel like I'm vulnerable all the time. It drives me crazy, but I'm like sort of getting used to it.
Yeah. It's about having a different relationship with it.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this session. And if you have any questions that we can follow up with, certainly let us know. You can follow up with an email, or you can follow up in the chat box. But we will respect your time and end the call now. But someone just bought the book. Look at that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Way to go, Diane.
And then there's connect@jennybeck.com. So connect@JAENYBAIK.com. Yeah.
Awesome. With that. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Any final parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say, I found my voice and I'm using it. And I believe we're in such an exciting time right now for women and women entrepreneurs. And so my question to you is, will you stay small, silent, and invisible? Or will you step up and find your own unique voice? And I think it's time for all of us as women to think bigger. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
So welcome. Thanks everyone for your time today.
Bye everyone. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks a lot for the advice.